All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Club Book with Carley Fortune. I am Kathleen West. I live in Minnesota. I'm the author of four novels. My most recent book is the cozy mystery Making Friends Can Be Murder. Before I introduce tonight's guest properly, allow me a moment to tell you a bit more about the unique series that is bringing her to us. Club Book is a program of MELSA, the Metropolitan Library Service Agency, made possible through Minnesota's Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and coordinated by Library Strategies, part of the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library. Anoka County Library is the co-organizer of this evening's talk. Thanks also to partnering bookseller Red Balloon Bookshop. A purchase link to One Golden Summer and pre-order link for Our Perfect Storm will be available in the comments section of this live stream feed. Have it shipped, pick it up at their lovely store in St. Paul, or have them deliver it to you personally to your door if you're close. One final housekeeping note, also in the comments you'll see a survey link. Melsa would greatly appreciate hearing what you think of this club book program. It's quick and easy. And as you already know, our guest tonight is Carley Fortune. In 5 short years, Carley has established herself as a #1 New York Times bestselling novelist and leading light in fiction's international romance boom. Her books have been translated into 30 languages and sold more than 3 million copies. That's amazing. Fortune's first novel, Every Summer After, is a nostalgic tale of love and life choices told over the course of 6 years. Set in the picturesque Ontario hamlet of Barry's Bay, this chart-topping literary debut introduced readers to Fortune's hallmark, the magic of Canadian cottage country and lake life's unique ability to foster second chance romance. Fortune's follow-ups, Meet Me at the Lake and This Summer Will Be Different, perfected the model. Fortune's latest novel, One Golden Summer, returns to Barry's Bay and centers on Charlie Floek, a fan favorite side character from Every Summer After. In a glowing review, E! News summarized, fans have been begging Fortune to give Charlie his happily ever after for years, and she's fully delivered with a sweet summer love story that I can't wait to talk about. May 5th is the pub date for Carley's next book, Our Perfect Storm. In it, best friends Frankie and George go on a quote honeymoon together to repair their strained friendship after Frankie's fiance dumps her at her wedding. It's been named a most anticipated book of 2026 by sources as varied as the New York Times, Women's World, and Town and Country. We have time for audience Q&A, so simply drop your questions in the comments thread on Facebook, and our tech manager will route them to me, and I'll get to as many as we can. You can also send a message to Club Book through Facebook Messenger or email, where we're at clubbookmn@gmail.com. Oh my gosh, Carley, I'm so excited to talk to you. This is an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction, and thank you for doing this, Kathleen.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't wait. They asked me, and I was like, seriously, her? Like, she's very famous. They're just going to let me talk to anybody these days? So, thank you so much for joining us.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
how is your day going? What are you up to? And where are you?
Oh my. I'm in Toronto. I'm in my office in Toronto. I've had a wild day. It started very early. I'm kind of in the pre-publicity mode for Our Perfect Storm. So I had uh, two photo shoots and a video shoot today. And then, as you know, I got home and my husband sliced open his hand.
No.
And I just heard he's fine. I just heard him walk back in the door. So our kids will have somebody to look
They're
after them.
supervised. Hooray. That's awesome. Well, I really, really enjoyed One Golden Summer.
Thank
Um,
you.
and gosh, I thought it was such an interesting book in so many ways, and I can't wait to ask you about it. And I'll jump in with the theme of family, kind of the push
Yeah.
and pull of family that both of the main characters are experiencing, and the idea of how much you owe your family, how much your family owes you. Could you start with Alice and talk about her responsibility to her? Well, could you give us a little summary of what the book's about so people who maybe
Sure.
haven't read it yet could get it? And then we can jump into
Yeah.
that question.
Yeah. Let me like brush off my one
I
golden
know.
summer. It's been a while since I've talked about it. So Alice is a photographer. She is in her early 30s, and she's very feeling a bit stuck in her career, kind of creatively uninspired. And um, when her grandmother falls and breaks her hip, she decides to take the opportunity to take her grandmother back to the lake that her grandmother loves, and this place where Alice spent one summer when she was 17. And that summer was kind of transformative for Alice. She picked up a camera for the first time, and she took her first good photo, her first excellent photo, which was of three teenagers in a yellow boat. And now she goes back to the lake with her grandmother, and she sees that yellow boat. And one of the teenagers from the photo is now grown up and is Charlie Floek, who, if you've read Every Summer After, you will know who that is. He and she kind of form a unlikely friendship, and he also forms a friendship with her grandmother. And so it's about how that summer unfolds.
And so there's found family in addition, because
Yes,
the grandmother Nan is what she's called in the book. She and Charlie
yes,
become quite close,
they
and then
do.
there's like Nan's history and her family comes into play too.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, can you
yeah.
talk about a little bit about what you were trying to convey about, you know, the people we call family and what brings us to them?
Yeah, I think, for Nan, I think what I was kind of exploring with these characters were they're all at different stages in their life where they're kind of reckoning with what's coming next. And I loved looking at one, I always like to have a female relationship, a central female relationship within my books. And I hadn't told a granddaughter story. My grandmother, had the kids. They had a cottage. She had four children. She took them up to the lake all summer. My grandfather was working in the city, and she had, no washing machine, no phone. She was with the kids all summer. And I really wanted to kind of pay tribute to the generations of people who spend time at the cottage. And this cottage is owned by Nan's. Her best friend has died, but it's this cottage she used to go to with her best friend and her husband. And I loved the idea of looking at that intergenerational relationship. And I also loved because the idea of Charlie, who is a character I had thought about for many years. He lost his father when he was very young. He lost his mother more recently. And I think really is searching for family. And I loved that he finds this family at the lake. And yeah, it's certainly both like a look at I really wanted to paint a portrait of an older woman, a woman in her 80s who is like vibrant and who is respected by younger generations. And I really wanted to like look at how everyone kind of what they give each other. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because Nan, she wasn't like all in on this idea of being taken care of for the summer.
No,
She really
not at all.
resisted the idea that Alice would give up time or energy to take care of her. Seemed to
Yes.
like feel sort of resentful that she needed it and that Alice wanted to do it. So I thought that was interesting too, to see her as like maybe a former authority figure or at least like a trusted mentor in that kind of flipped relationship too.
Yes, yes. And her grandmother is like very energetic and was supposed to go on this vacation that she couldn't go on, and now her mobility is not where she'd like to be. She was injured in a dance class.
I know that was such a
And
great detail. There are so many great details in the novel, so much like humor, and that was definitely one. Like injured to Dancing Queen, I think it was. Yeah. So,
yes.
yeah. Yeah, so sorry I interrupted you about the grandmother, but I enjoyed that a lot with Alice. T taking care of her, kind of them negotiating how the taking care of was going to work.
Yes.
Because Nan really did maintain a lot of her independence, but also
Yes.
Alice had to, or she felt she had to be the one, and maybe she actually had to be the one to take charge of the situation. Her siblings are
Yeah.
not super reliable.
Yeah, her siblings, I mean, she has an older sister who is a litigator and a single mother with a teenage daughter. So her older sister is busy. And then she has two younger twin siblings who are in their early 20s, and her brother's a bartender, and her sister is in theater, and they're doing their own like early 20s thing. And Alice really, she is somebody who looks after everybody. She really takes care of people. Like that's, she puts other people before herself. And she loves her grandmother, and she's also looking for a way to get her creative spark back. And I think, the lake was an opportunity to get her grandmother out of her house and get it. Her grandma's kind of getting cabin fever at home after her injury, and also for Alice to go back to the place where she like her love of photography began.
And
So kind of a
yeah,
reset for both of them.
I wanted to talk about photography. How did you decide on that as a profession for Alice?
Oh my gosh. This was tricky because I knew Charlie very, very well going into
Yeah,
this book, and I always start with the female protagonist, with the heroine of the story. And so it was very tricky to kind of figure out who the right person would be, who would both be a good match for him and an interesting dynamic, but also had her own story that I was interested in
yeah.
telling, and a life that I was interested in looking at. And I made up like I think it was 18 characters that I
Wow.
like, different jobs, personalities, different, like some of them had a history with him, some of them didn't. Their dynamics were different. I wrote 11,000 words of a story with a completely different character. And then I was like, this isn't it. Chucked that
Mhm.
out. And what I liked about the photographer, I was kind of, one of the ideas was a songwriter, and I liked the idea that this songwriter had spent a year at the lake when she was younger. That kind of inspired her
Mhm.
creatively. But song, like I felt like there was seemed to be like a lot of like singer-songwriter, pop star books, and then it was like, well, what about a photographer who is both someone who is on this like creative journey, who the lake was really important to her, but then also this idea of someone who does not is so much more comfortable behind the lens, and doesn't want to take center stage, doesn't like to shine, and that is so different from Charlie, who is very comfortable being in the spotlight. So I loved how that could play out.
Yeah, and I loved thinking about photography as a metaphor too for like her participation in her own life and her
Yeah,
agency in her own life. And then
yeah,
there's some moments where she talks about like getting images that she doesn't love or she doesn't think
yeah,
reflect her image or what she wanted to project into the
yeah,
world. So I
yes.
loved thinking about that too because I thought it worked on a couple of levels with her trying to
Thank
reinvent
you.
herself and then also her art.
Yes,
Really
thank you.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then, well, I suppose we don't want to spoil the book, but she does some really lovely things with the photographs that,
Yeah,
I thought it was super perfect. And I think it will be
thank
really
you.
inspiring for writers to hear about how many versions you had to try before you landed on the
Oh my
first one.
gosh. So many.
Did
So
you
many.
go ahead?
I know, like I was like creating little paragraphs of them. I was emailing my editor. Like it was just like it was a good month of that for sure before I
Feel a
started
lot of
writing.
pressure because I'm sure you were on a tight deadline because your
Yeah.
legions of fans demand another book.
I
So was
mean,
it hard?
everything, it's always a tight deadline because I write a book a year, and I'm not a fast writer at all. Like that's the absolute maximum I could possibly pace I could work at. Um, the pressure, um, I don't, this was my fourth book. I feel like by the time I got to my fourth book, a lot of the pressure, whether it was, you know, real or just in my own imagination, I was able to kind of like step away from that and just focus on the story. I did not, I didn't worry too much about the reader. Like I was. really thinking about the experience of reading the book and what kind of experience I wanted the reader to have, but I wasn't worried about like with my second book, like are
Yeah.
they like is this even a book? Like I didn't that pressure was like a little bit relieved. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was something that struck me about it that I thought was really great was that I didn't feel like there was a plot structure sort of imposed on the book. I felt like you were kind of, as a reader, I was like at the lake with the
Yes.
characters. You know, there
Yeah.
weren't like, I didn't feel like, oh, now we're in Act Two, or here we are at the rising
Yeah.
action. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel
Yeah.
like that. It felt
Good.
really character driven. Um,
Good.
yeah, and I read that you appreciate romance tropes, but you don't necessarily write to them. Could you talk a
No.
little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think, the tropes can be applied to anything, like music, film, books. In romance, it's like you can get very, very specific in the tropes, and there's such a like it's such a huge genre with such a passionate fan base that is, a lot of readers are really aware of the tropes. And I
Hmm.
think like tropes can be a tool in your kit as a writer when you're coming up with ideas like, oh, I haven't written enemies to lovers in a
Right.
few books, or I've never done that, and that I want to try that, tackling that trope. It's just not how I think,
Hmm.
and I really like the settings always come first for me, and then it's the protagonist. And I do think about the dynamics between the characters, but not in like, oh, it's this trope, therefore they have to be like this. But then
Yeah.
of course you can apply the tropes, like, you always can like apply the tropes when it's written, and so it's just not something I reach for.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes when I read romance, but it's not all I read, so I probably read, I
Yeah.
don't know, three or four romance novels a year.
Yeah.
But sometimes if I'm reading a romance novel and it's relying what I would say like heavily on a trope or a plot structure associated with a
Yeah.
trope, I kind of can be like, well, this next beat is going to be this, or this
Yeah.
is what is going to happen.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this story was much more flowy, fluid, I felt. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I think like I just try to write, I really am thinking about the characters, their journey, what they need to go, like what they're kind of experiencing. I'm also thinking a lot about the place and what I want them to
mhm.
do, like where I want us to be with them. And I really see the stories visually. And like there's kind of these like set pieces in the story.
Yeah.
So like with one golden summer, there's like the jet ski rides, and there's the jumping off the cliff, and there's floating on the loungers, and there's the tree house. And so I love like I've used that to kind of like help me get where I'm going, but it's more of an emotional
Yeah.
arc and a character growth arc than beats. Like I don't map my stories out to like hitting certain beats. Although you can feel when you're reading if something is like, okay, we're at
Well, the
25%
yeah,
and nothing is
suspense
like
building.
happening. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I really admired it. I really liked it. Let's talk about Charlie a little bit.
Sure.
Because I read in your author's note in the back that almost immediately when people read his in the book in which he first appears, they started asking for a happy ending for him.
Yes.
And so how
Yeah.
long did you ruminate on that, or what was the planning process like when you knew you were going to bring Charlie back?
Well, when I was talking to my editor before she even before I even had a book deal, like when I was meeting with editors, the editor who ended up being my editor, Amanda, she was asking me about like what other books had I been thinking about writing, which I hadn't been thinking about much because when I wrote Every Summer After, I wasn't even planning on publishing it. So I wasn't sitting on manuscripts or years of like material or ideas. And the only thing I had been thinking about was Charlie. And I said to her then, like, you know, kind of like Charlie is the only like thing that I've really thought of at this point. And I had, but as soon as I finished writing Every Summer After, I had started writing a little bit from Charlie's
Oh,
point of view, from his voice.
okay.
But I didn't have a story for him. Like I
Mhm.
didn't know what that story was. And we decided, my editor and I decided, like, let's just put a pin in it and we'll like maybe we'll come back to him one day. And then when Every Summer After came out, people were just some people hated him and some people just loved him and wanted a happy ending. And I didn't go on a book tour for Every Summer After because it was
Yeah,
um,
COVID. Yeah.
still a bit pandemic y for events. But for my second book, I went on a book tour and people would like come up to me and demand his story and justice for Charlie. And they would pitch me ideas on who he should be with. And I would get DMs all the time, nonstop. So I, when we were talking about the fourth book, I was like,
It's
I think
time.
it's time. I think it's time. I think people still want it. I feel confident to get back into that world. It just felt like the right moment.
Well, this is a reader question, but I think I've also read you talking about it about Barry's Bay being a real place that you're
Yes.
inspired by. So maybe you
Yes.
wanted a little homecoming as well. Um,
Yeah, it was nice to go back there. I grew up. I was born in Toronto, which is about 4 hours south of Barry's Bay. But my family cottage was in Barry's Bay, and I spent my young childhood in Australia. And when we moved back to Canada, my parents decided they didn't want to live in the city, and they wanted to make a home in Barry's Bay on the lake. So from fourth grade to the end of high school, lived very much like Sam and Charlie
wow.
grew up in Every Summer After. I lived down a dirt road in the bush on the lake. My parents had a restaurant and an inn. And every summer, our road was very isolated, there's only 3 year-round residences. It was like, really woodsy. And in the summer, all these cottagers would come and there would be kids on the road. Like my cousins had cottages there. My brother's best friend had a cottage on the road so they would come from the cities to the lake. And it was so fun. And so Every Summer After was really inspired by my childhood summers at the lake. But with One Golden Summer, I got to kind of explore what the lake means to me as an adult, as this place of resetting. And my parents sold our house on the lake maybe 15 years ago, but my husband and I have rented a place on a different lake nearby. There's lots and lots of lakes here, different lake nearby, and we went there for 10 years. We just bought a cottage in the area in the fall, and I find every summer I take a moment to like lie down on the dock and close my eyes and just kind of think about my life and like where I'm at and what like the year ahead. And that's kind of what's happening in One Golden Summer, I think, for the characters.
Yeah, that's perfect. We have a big lake culture here in Minnesota and the
Yes,
Twin Cities too. So I think people are probably really familiar with like what it feels like to retreat,
yes,
to a lake place.
yes.
I was wondering also if you were bringing your children there and what if they were starting to enjoy it. Like, do they want to
Oh,
go or?
yeah, they love it. They love it. They've been going since they were both born. So I have two boys. My oldest is 9, my youngest is 5. And I remember I found becoming a mom really, really challenging. I had mental health challenges. It was tough, and I felt very isolated. And we brought my son to the lake when he was 6 months. He was 6 months old when we took him there, and I remember like taking him into the water with me. We have pictures of it, and like putting his toes in, and it was like the first moment I was like, I'm going to be able to
Moving.
do this. I'm going to
Mhm.
be able to be a parent. And yeah, so they've been going up every year. In 2020 and 2021, we spent the whole summer at the lake. And yeah, we love it. And now we get to go up in there in the winter too, because the place we have is winterized. So that's really special.
That is really great. And
It is.
probably a benefit of being a full-time writer. You might have a little more flexibility about where you can be.
Yes and no because the kids are in school.
Yeah.
But I do have more flexibility, but they
Got to go to school.
gotta build those brains.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to ask about that because you were a journalist before you started, and this is a reader question as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
Um, and can you talk about deciding to try to write your first novel? You mentioned
Yeah.
you didn't plan to publish it.
Mm-mm.
What was it like to just start and give it a shot?
Well, it was great. I was a journalist for 16 years. In my last and I kind of really I was an editor and really like kind of rising in my career. I worked at newspapers and magazines here. My last job was launching the Canadian edition of Refinery 29, which is a digital women's media brand. And so I hired that editorial team, oversaw
Wow.
that team, and was overseeing that team in the through the pandemic. And it was a very stressful job for a number of reasons. I am so proud of the work we did. It's my I think published the best journalism of my career there with those writers. But I was just constantly arguing with management.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to fight for my team. And it was really, really frustrating. And I had become a journalist and studied journalism because I didn't think I could be a writer. And I really wanted to be a not when I was little, I wanted to write stories. And I didn't think being a novelist was a job
Yeah,
that was,
no.
achieved like something
Mhm.
that I could do. So I went to journalism school and but I always wanted to write a book. And so in 2020, and I was like so frustrated with work, so stressed, and I had this terrible phone call, and I can remember it so clearly because I was at the cottage and I was on a landline, and I remember like slamming the phone down after I was done the call, and I was just like, I'm gonna write a book.
That's it.
I'm going to write a book. I'm going to finish it by the end of the year. I have not done anything creatively for myself for my entire career. It's always been for work. And so I'm just gonna do this. And I figured out, I was like, okay, it's my manuscript has to be 80,000 words. Did the math. If I write 388 words a day, I will finish it by the end of the year. And so that's what I did.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I did read that, and we're getting a ton of audience questions, so I'm gonna have to stop asking my own questions shortly. But I did read that you found your old job to be more, you had more companionship. Being a writer can be lonely sometimes.
Yeah.
How do you combat that loneliness, or do you have writer buddies that you go to with your problems,
I
etc.?
do. I do. It is a very um lonely job and it kind of has to be. Um, and I'm here in my office. I have a personal trainer. I see her more than like other than my husband and my kids. I see Chin Chin and I see her like 3 times a week. And that's because if I don't have an appointment, I will just sit at my office all day. And I need like in order for me to do my job, I need to move. I need to have
Yeah.
exercise to kind of manage everything. And yeah, I just so that it is lonely. I miss like having colleagues and like that creative like brainstorming and that
Back and forth.
yeah, that back and forth. I love that back and forth. And I also really miss like if we had a coffee and you were telling me like, oh, I don't know about like this thing for social media or this thing, I would start giving you assignments. Like
I do have problems. We could go through those things right now. Like
I
I,
really miss giving people work. That would like as an editor, it was so great to like, oh, here's an idea, you go do it. And now
yeah,
it's like, oh, I have to do
you
everything.
have to do it yourself.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, and do you have friends? Like, do you send your early pages to, are they writer friends or are they just kind
I
of
do
like,
not send my early
okay,
pages to other writers. I do have there's a group of us. that we have found each other in Toronto, of authors. Myself, Ashley Audrain, who is a
Oh yeah,
thriller writer.
yeah, push.
Emma Knight, The Push, yeah, The Push, The Whispers. Her next one I just read, it's so
Oh,
good.
I can't wait.
Um, Emma Knight, who wrote The Life Cycle of a Common
Oh
Octopus,
yeah,
and Harriet Alida Lai, who is has this brilliant book coming out very, very shortly called Mother Clown. And so we've all found each other and are of a similar like age, life stage, and they're really like we've got the group text going. But
that's
my pages mostly just go to my editor and my best friend
cool.
who works with me.
Okay,
So
this question I love because I'm a massive Swiftie too, but this
yeah,
person who's watching the live screen stream needs you to know that you went to the same Eras Tour show as her in
which in
Toronto.
Toronto
Yes.
I went to
And
two.
she made This Summer Will Be Different themed friendship bracelets in case she was going to run into you at the show.
But
She
we
had them
didn't see
ready
each
to
other.
go. Yeah.
Um,
So you didn't see
Thank
her there,
you.
but she had it ready just in case. So that's pretty cool.
That's amazing. Somebody did find me and gave me some Swifty, some
Yeah.
bracelets. So
Oh, that
that
is
was
so
fun.
great. That's so cool. What was your
Yeah.
favorite like part of the era in the show?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. It's all so good. You know what? I'm a big like folklore, Evermore girly. I
Yeah.
love like the witchy moments. My Tears Ricochet, I loved. But the night of my show, so Gracie Abrams was,
Mhm.
and the acoustic set was so good. But we also, my husband and I also went in France. So we did that first, which was incredible. And then we did Toronto too. So I was very
That's
spoiled.
amazing. I always say, so I'm a school teacher and it's come up more than you would think. I always tell my students, like, my biggest regret is not going to the Eras tour. And they're like, that's your biggest regret? And I'm like, well, isn't that good? I haven't killed anybody or anything
You've
like
lived
that.
a good life, Kathleen.
Yeah. The person who wrote that question or wrote that comment also had a question, which was, did you do anything new or different when you wrote Our Perfect Storm, your newest book, that changed the process or helped the process at all?
Um, a little bit. For the first time with Our Perfect Storm, I like got out cue cards and like had this like big brain map on the floor. Because the book has there's kind of like an opening section and then they go to Tofino and their time in Tofino is over 7 days and each day has a theme which will make sense when you read it. And then there are also short chapters from the past. And they go all over the place in time. They're not linear. And they're really just so you get a taste of their friendship because they have been friends since they were 8 and kind of see these key moments in their friendship. And so those moments happen between the days. And so trying to figure out like what each day's arc was, like what is happening each day, and then what is the past snippet that like pairs with that after this moment, that I needed to like really like visually lay out on the floor. I think I probably have them here, and that was really helpful. I don't know where they are. Um, yeah,
That's
so that
really
was a
cool to
bit
hear about. And
different.
somebody else asked, do you have like a personal connection to Tofino? Why Tofino?
Do. Yeah. So Tofino, for anyone who doesn't know, is on Vancouver Island. So it's off the west coast of Canada and it's on the west side of Vancouver Island. So it's as far west as you can get in this country. And it's very Pacific Northwest. Rainforests and beaches and very, very dramatic whales. And I lived on Vancouver Island for a year after I graduated from university with my boyfriend, now my husband. And while we were there, we lived in Victoria, this city in the southern part. We visited Tofino twice while we were there, and it was like just incredible. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. It does not look like Canada. It looks like it's impossible to describe how incredible it is. I tried as hard as I could. And it felt like standing on the edge of the world. And it's always like stuck with me. Um, and when I started writing, there were a couple of two places that I knew I wanted to like come to in books. One was Prince Edward Island, which is in The Summer Will Be Different, and the other was Tofino. And I was just kind of, so I went back out to Tofino a couple of years ago just to refamiliarize myself. Um, and I was just waiting for the right story for it. This one came along.
Somebody mentioned that well, you mentioned Prince Edward Island, which of course is Anne of Green Gables, and I think she
Mhm.
means a lot to you. And
Yeah.
another reader had mentioned that she heard that Our Perfect Storm is inspired by Little Women. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, can
Yeah.
you talk about like your history as a reader and these childhood classics and how they make their way into your stories?
Yeah. I think Anne of Green Gables is such an underrated literary masterpiece. Like well known in Canada, but I don't think we even as Canadians sing its praises enough. But it is such a beautiful, beautiful book. And revisiting it, I was like struck again by how incredible the writing is. But and Little Women, I read after seeing the 90s adaptation. And honestly, in both cases, it was the adaptations that I just consumed over and over and over again. We had VHS recordings of these 1980s, late 1980s CBC. It aired on PBS in the United States. Um, Movies, Anne of Green Gable movies. There's two of them, and then I we had the '90s Little Women with Christian Bale and Winona Ryder on VHS, and I just watched them over and over and over and over again. And with Anne of Green Gables, it was, and it's really beautiful in the book too. It was like the sense of place, the setting, and I've always been a sucker for setting. And this is somebody who comes to Prince Edward Island for the first time and feels like it's home, and she's never seen somewhere so beautiful. It's about found family. She's an orphan who is adopted by a brother and sister. It's about friendship. She's never really had a friend before, and she meets this friend, and there's all this girl drama at school, and of course there's a boy, and there's a great romance in the book, and Anne is such a flawed but ambitious, like spunky character. I loved her, and the fashion, like she had these puffed sleeves, like she was obsessed with puffed sleeves, and I loved Anne. And when I went to Prince Edward Island for the first time with my friend, I was in my 20s, and I just like everywhere I looked, I was just picturing that movie. And with Little Women, I love it was one of my favorite movies growing up. And I remember when it was streaming, came back to streaming through Netflix, and I hadn't seen it in so long. At the beginning of the film, it is like a black screen, and then the score starts, and the title is like written. I just started bawling. Like it's just like that's how much I had like absorbed that movie and the sisters. And but the thing about that was I was always rooting for Joe and Laurie in that
Same.
movie. And
Same.
sometimes I just turn it off when
I
she,
know.
like I just and so when I was thinking about the characters for this book for Our Perfect Storm, I wanted neighbors. I had this vision of we live on a ravine in Toronto, and there's a lot of wildlife, and my kids had like been chasing a rabbit under the cedar hedge. And I just had this vision of kids meeting that way, like one on one side of the fence, the other on the other side of the fence, which is how George and Frankie meet as children. And I just thought about these kids for so long, for years. And At the same time, I was like, I want to write characters who are neighbors, who are very similar, because I hadn't written about that, like this dynamic of two people who are like quite similar. Um, and I don't know why I started thinking about Little Women. And I thought, okay, what if you have these two very fiery, stubborn, hot-headed people, and instead of that being the reason they can't be together, like we try to I'm gonna see if I can.
Yeah, that's the reason that they can be together. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, or see like how does that play out? Um,
I
so
don't
and there's a
think
lot
that I
of
would
Little
have.
Women references in the book
Oh,
too. So
fun.
it's not a retelling, but there's a
No,
lot of like little like nuggets.
I love that. I also do not think I would have forgiven my sister for putting my book in the fire. I mean, there's just no,
No.
I mean, that would have been a forever situation,
I mean,
unfortunately.
Amy's pretty br like Amy
She's
in that movie is
bad.
pretty brutal. Like I feel like Greta Gerwig does like a much like in that version, which I also love. It's like, no, I'm not rooting for Joe and Lori. I don't like Amy's much like more powerful. It's a completely different kind of adaptation, but
Yeah,
I
she
love
did
that 90s one.
a much better. I thought I
Yeah.
got it a lot more when I saw that. Okay,
Yeah.
speaking of streaming, you mentioned streaming. Everyone wants to
Yeah.
know about Every Year After. We want to know the
Yeah.
nuggets about it. What's going on? What are you doing as executive producer? What does that mean? Tell us all the.
Right now, I'm just counting the days until it comes out, which is almost exactly 2 months because
Oh, yeah.
it's out June 10th. It shot last summer. It is, I love it. It, our showrunner she's done an amazing job of, um, because it's a series and like, knock on wood, fingers crossed, we get a second season. The Every Summer After is such a like you can really see it as a film. Like it has this like arc and then it has a very clear ending and it's really focused quite tightly on Sam and Percy, Sam and Charlie's mom. Um and Amy, our showrunner, has really kind of like opened it up to like pull inside characters and give them very different storylines that make it more of an ensemble. Um, but it's so true to the heart of the book. Like it is so emotionally true to the book. And some of my favorite scenes are scenes that like are not in the book, scenes that I didn't write. And I think the cast is incredible and just wonderful. Sadie Soverell, who plays Percy, is just she will be the hugest star. Like she is so talented. And Matt and Michael, who play Sam and Charlie, are wonderful. And like so like I'm like, are you two brothers? Because they seem like I think they kind of became brothers shooting. And there's a lot of what's great with the series is that because the book is told from Percy's point of view, but the series is all over the place, you really get to see their brother dynamic more. Um, and yeah, I love it. I'm so happy with it.
Did you have shows in mind that you were like, okay, if it could turn out like X, I would be really pleased with it?
No,
No. Okay. It's
no. I
just
wanted it to be its like own thing to feel like, and I do feel like, of course, it's like it's summary. It's like there's romance, there's drama, but I think like it has like an aesthetic that is different. I didn't want it to be like fancy coastal town
right,
that
right, right.
we always see. So that's not the vibe. And I think it has a emotional tone that's a little bit different too. And like the now and then structure is really great. And we have young actors doing kind of the first two summers, and then we got the older actors to kind of jump in from there. And the young
Cool.
cast is so wonderful too. So good.
Oh, everyone is going to be so excited. And this is a question that kind of relates to that. I wanted to know about the music in
Yeah.
like, did you have any part, have you seen it with the music, the show? And then this relates to the question, which was if you could choose a soundtrack for one golden summer, do you have any songs in mind that would be like the ones?
The number one is Golden by Harry Styles.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's my request. The music is wonderful in the show, like extraordinarily good. Um, like the first song right off the bat is like but I'm not gonna spoil
Okay.
anything. Is so wonderful and yeah, it's all good. It's all really good.
That's awesome. My dogs are running around in the background, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. This is going to be an impossible question for you to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. People always want to know this. The question is, I loved Every Summer After and One Golden Summer so much. I found Every Summer After in a little free library, and I was hooked. So that's kind of a
Oh,
fun origin
that's
story.
cute.
But she wants to know who is your favorite book character you've written and why?
Charlie.
Can you choose? Oh, it's Charlie. You can just do it.
Yeah, it's 100%
Wow.
Charlie.
Tell me more.
He came to me so clearly when I was writing Every Summer After. He was originally called Joe because Joe Joseph is such a common Barry's Bay name. And then I wrote the first scene of him and Sam in the book, and they're young and they're playing on the floating raft, and Charlie shows up and like pushes, like kind of teases his brother and then pushes him off. And I was like, oh, he's not a Joe. He is a Charlie, and I now know everything about him. And I feel like from that moment, he has just been like so easy for me to conjure. He comes the most easily to me. And I love putting him in a room with anyone. Like if you put him in a room with someone, something magical happens. Like it's just, yeah,
I love that.
he's the only character of mine that I've had a dream about. Um,
I was going to
and
ask, are you the kind of writer where the characters talk to you on their own or not?
They definitely like when I'm lying in bed like that, like I will, it all plays out for me. Like sometimes I have to I will sit and think hard, and sometimes it just
It just
appears.
happens.
But it's not like they're talking to me. It's just like I can hear them doing their own thing. But yeah, Charlie had a dream about it. It was so weird.
What did he do in the dream? And are you going to put it in a book?
Don't remember. I remember he was really attractive.
Yeah.
That's
Well, he's
like,
clearly very attractive.
yeah.
I got that from the book.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Very
yeah, and
handsome.
he has like such a quick and big personality.
Yeah.
It was sort of shocking, like their immediate back and forth and banter between Charlie and Alice in the book. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, sparks are flying right away.
Yes. Yes. I think he would spark with a rock.
Yeah, that's kind of what it seemed like. It was like he wasn't going to let anybody off the hook.
No, he doesn't. He
So that was
doesn't.
kind of fun.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know, are there nuances or references in your book that Canadian readers will get, but American readers might miss?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. There's cultural references, there's musical references, places, businesses. There's a In This Summer Will Be Different. Aunt Stacy, Lucy's aunt, is a former actress, and
Hmm,
she had a recurring role on the show Ready or Not, which Americans will not be familiar with Ready or Not, but it was a TV show in the late 90s about two best friends, girls, in like middle school and early high school, and it was effing phenomenal. I think like a lot of Americans have heard of Degrassi, but in my
yeah,
opinion, Ready or Not was better. And Yeah, so that's like that kind of thing. I just like sneak them in there. And if you don't get them, it doesn't matter. But if you do get them, it's like such a nice little,
a little Easter egg for being
yeah,
Canadian, which is,
yeah.
I don't know, a little bit better than being American these days, I feel. But um, so, um,
No comment.
yeah, I know. Okay, so somebody's book club wonders if your books have had good fortune for Barry's Bay, and they put fortune in quotation marks. Nice pun. Like, have the people been visiting
Yeah,
your Barry's Bay because of the
yeah,
books? And are you
yeah.
offering any kind of tour? I want to know that. Like, can we have our own golden summer?
Um, you would have to consult somebody to help you with that. People do visit. They go to there is a restaurant called the Wilno Tavern, which the tavern in the books is inspired by. It's just like the next little town over. So people go there, they have the pierogi, they take their photo by the Barry's Bayside. The like hardcore people will rent a cottage
Amazing.
on the lake. I had two benches installed in town last year. One is they were like they do these like memorial benches, so where you can usually you pay tribute to a loved one who has passed on. But when they were doing that, I was like, like have always wanted to put a bench in by the water, by the like municipal dock that is for Sam and Percy, because that's always like where they would sit and have ice cream there. And so I had a bench put in there that says Sam and Percy were here. And then I had one put in like closer in town by the railway station. There's a scene in One Golden Summer that happens there that says Alice and Charlie were here.
Oh,
So those are fun, and people can go and get their photo taken. And then we're doing a fundraiser for the local library in the summer um, at the community arena called One Golden Gala. So we like it sold out, and the people have
amazing.
bought cottages up there because of the book. So it's yeah, it's been wild. And Prince Edward Island too has really like seen a lot of people coming because of the book, which is so wonderful.
Yeah, that is awesome.
It
This is
really
a
is.
really fun question. Someone is asking about the bucket list that Alice
Yeah.
creates and wondered if you were going to make, if you had your own bucket list, what
Mhm.
are some items that might be on it?
Yeah, so Alice is trying to like redo her summer, like if her the ideal summer she would have had when she was 17. So that's like her 17-year-old summer bucket list. My summer bucket list is like diving into the lake. I would have a boat ride, Aperol spritzes, a visit with like there are certain friends who I want to have visit like at they come to my cottage or I go to their cottage. Um, reading like a day like by the water just reading is like my ultimate. Gotta have Fourth of Dairy ice cream. Yeah.
I love that. How about like on your author bucket list? It feels like a lot of author dreams have come true for you, which is so great.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
anything that you're kind of like, oh man, if this could happen?
Um, I don't know. I feel like there's can always be another thing. Like there's of course there's like you can sell X more books. You could have a like theatrical an adaptation that's like has a theatrical um like is in theaters. You could have I've never been a book club pick. You could have a big book club pick. But like I try not to like I have been so fortunate that that is like not um how I
Yeah.
want to
I
think.
do feel like gratitude, I have had a different kind of career from yours, but I just feel like gratitude is very important as an author. Like,
Yes.
instead of just always wishing for the next big thing, like stopping
Yeah.
to think about how much you've accomplished and like how happy
Yeah.
and grateful you are for every reader that you have. So I get that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
This question is, do you have any famous fans? Have you met Taylor, basically, is what I want to know.
Have I met Taylor?
She's
She's right here. No.
right here.
Uh,
Oh my God.
I have
Uh,
not met Taylor. I did, however, stay under the same roof as her in Toronto. My because I live like not downtown, and I knew that the traffic would be crazy. Toronto traffic is worse than LA's, if like that puts it into perspective for you. And so my best friend and I we rented a hotel room that was really close to the stadium, and that is where Taylor was
no
staying.
way.
And when we were waiting for our elevator, went to like go to the elevator bay, and all her dancers were there.
No
And
way.
so we rode the elevator with her dancers.
Okay, I would have died because like I was following everything on Instagram. I followed all the dancers. I watched the docu-series. So I would
Yeah.
like be like greeting them by name probably in the
And we
elevator.
were like, good job, guys.
Yeah, awesome work on the
I'm like, oh my
show.
God, we're in the elevator with Cam. He was tired. He was
Oh,
like, I'm done. I'm
so
out of
good.
here. I'm done.
Someone wants to know, what are you looking forward to about the release of Our Perfect Storm? It seems like it's going to be a big release. Is there anything fun coming up in terms of release parties or programs that you can share?
Oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to so much. We are doing a really like great launch event in New York at the Strand bookstore. They have this like new event space. And so it's going to be their first event there. And we've got all these fun things planned, some special treats planned. Some really, and then like at the other event stops too. We've got some little like special things planned for that. Um, I am going to Tofino on
Sweet.
this tour. We're going to do a really special event at the Wickeninish Inn. And then we're trying to find it like another little event to do. There as well. And then there's going to be like a foraging tour because I went last summer to Tofino to just do kind of like my final research trip and make sure I like to make sure that I'm capturing a place as like accurately and authentically as I can. And we took this foraging tour, and Bryn was so wonderful and like inspired like little pieces of the book. And so she is going to do take people on a tour, and so that I'm really looking forward to. And we're going to have some time there. My boys and my husband are going to come out. We're going to have a few days there before we go to Vancouver. So I'm looking forward to all of it. And then June is going to be every year after show
Oh,
promo. So
yes, of course you have this show coming out too. Oh my
yes,
gosh, you're
yeah,
gonna have such a busy summer.
yes.
Yeah, there's so many more things I could ask you about because like maybe people can store up their questions for the tour, but
Yeah.
you have all kinds of gems. I'll just ask one more thing before we close, which is what are you reading now, or what are you interested in right now? What are you watching? What are you reading? What do you recommend?
Yes, I okay, so I haven't been watching a ton lately. I was watching Love Story, and then I kind of I'm gonna finish it, but I've been just like reading so much. I've been trying to read as many arcs like as possible
Mm.
to because I'm now gonna have to like stop because I really want to give back to other authors, especially debut authors. And um but I have had finished my pile of arcs, and so I went back. I was like, now I'm starting to read the books that I missed. So I just finished Heart the Lover.
Oh my God, I loved it. It was so excellent.
I finished it last night, and my husband was out at band practice, and I was just sobbing. I was
Yes.
like having to put the kids to bed, and I was just crying, crying, crying. It was so good. And then I just started The Correspondent.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm reading now. But I read this book called Bad Words that is coming out, I think, in October. It's a
Okay.
debut romance. Um, the author has written YA books before. I would say it is a game-changing romance novel.
Oh,
Like
right.
I think it is so sharply written, and well observed, and the characters, the writing is so precise. It's about a book critic, a woman who is a book critic, and this author, this like male author who had this huge, huge book deal for his debut novel, and just before it comes out, she pans it, and the novel tanks. And now he's putting out a second book many years later, very small deal. And she is assigned to review it, and she pans it again. She pans him again. Um, and their paths cross. And
Mhm.
it's about their story. And it is fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. Um, and then I'm a big Annabelle Monaghan
Oh yeah,
fan. I've
me too.
um, Dolly All the Time is her next one. Oh, I loved it. I read it on vacation, and I was like, felt like I was with Annabelle, and it's so warm. I feel like she like writes about family life through the lens of romance, but it's really about like family and like what it means to like live a good life. I love her books. Um, And then Tia Williams, I like Tia Williams is one of my favorite romance authors, and she has a book coming out this year called The Misconnection, which is she had like it's about this she has all these her premises can be so wild and the books are so grounded and down to earth, and it's about a woman who meets a man on a flight, um and they she just like falls asleep and then he's gone, and she hires a personal detective to try to find him, and it's about that story and or private investigator to find him. And but it's so like it's so this is crazy premise, but it's so the characters are so real, like you feel like they're real people. So I love Tia.
Those were great recommendations, and I really wish we could talk for another hour. But I have been directed that I should close things up. So I have a little script read, but I just want to say from me personally, this has been such a delight. I'm so happy
Oh,
I got to do it, and it was so nice to meet you. Um,
thank you
yes.
for doing this, Kathleen. I really appreciate it, and thank
Oh my
you
gosh, what an honor.
for to everyone who has sat in and to Club Book too. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, here's what I'm supposed to say to everybody. That's all the time we have this evening. Thank you again, Carly, for penciling us into your busy spring. We cannot wait to follow along. This has been a virtual presentation of Club Book, a long-running literary series of Melsa, made possible by the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Special thanks again to Anoka County Library for the part they played in bringing Carly to us. Before you log off, look for the Club Book survey link, which is in the comments and will be projected in place of my video momentarily. Oh, there it is. If you love romance, and we know you do, mark your calendars and be sure to join Club Book next Tuesday, April 14th, for a virtual event featuring Tessa Bailey, who was famously dubbed the Michelangelo of Dirty Talk by Entertainment Weekly. In the meantime, you can check out Club Book's backlist of nearly 200 podcast episodes, including romance favorites like Allie Hazelwood and Jasmine Guillory. It's all available at clubbook.org or through your favorite podcasting app. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.